What up, what up, what up, everyone? This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful little chit chat. I just want to talk to some people. Um, I don't know if I want to call this a teaching or not, but anywho, we're just talking, right? We're just gonna be talking about some stuff. One of the things I want to encourage a person to do is if God gave you a voice, do not let the opposers silence it. If God gave you a voice, right? He gave you something to do or he gave you a voice. Do not let the opposers silence it. I think many times a lot of people, including myself, because this happened to me as well, you go through some things in life or you had traumas or hurt with other peoples that basically, and sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, they silence you. One of the things they do is, especially for people who are truly called by God, they make it seem like you don't hear God. They will always make it seem like you don't hear God. You don't know how God's voice sound. And so because of that, they make you seem like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Even though you may not have no proof to what you're saying, even though sometimes you could have proof to it and they still act like, or they'll make it seem as if, or they'll come off as, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. A lot of times also people go through just traumas in general. And because of that, they don't know how to stand firm in what God has given them, or they don't know how to stand firm in their voice, right? And a lot of times, let's say the trauma came from parents, right? Which is one of the reasons why I am an advocate for forgiving your parents. I am an advocate from healing from parents, and making sure that you don't allow whatever is hanging over your life, whatever is hanging over your head because of what came out through their mouth, to basically let it continue to stay in your life, or to continue to just go on those actions because you're still hurt by it, you didn't heal by it. Or sometimes, let's say you worked at the wrong job and you had leaders or bosses that were wicked, and so now every time you get a job, you don't know how to stand firm in what you believe in. You don't know how to stand firm in what you know God told you to do, or you just don't know how to stand firm in your skills and the skills that you have, you work hard for, and the skills that you prune and the skills that you develop. You get to a new job, all of a sudden you get around the wrong colleagues, you get in the wrong department, you get underneath the wrong boss. Now all of a sudden you're not sure about the skills that you have developed. You have to heal over that. A lot of times people will make it seem like you don't know your voice, or they will attack the very voice that you have because they're jealous. They're jealous of the fact that you stand up for people. They're jealous of the fact that you do not like injustice. They're jealous of the fact that you're confident in your voice, or you're confident in what you believe in. They're confident in what you stand for. They're confident because you have morals or principles. Now all of a sudden, you're the problem. Now they're opposing you because you're the problem. I need you guys to understand that at times you're not the problem. You are just around people who they're unsure about themselves. You are just around people that they don't have no confidence in themselves. You are just around people that was probably jealous of you. You around people that they don't mind being ran over. They don't mind people talking about them. They don't mind any of that. They don't mind standing up for what, they don't mind just staying on the wayside and not standing up for what is right. Many of them, they probably saw somebody get abused and looked the other way. They probably saw somebody get done injustice to and looked the other way. They just don't mind. There's a difference between, standing on what is your business and then you just getting in other people's business, and you have no business getting into other people's business. There's a difference. But a lot of times people, they get around people who are insecure. They got around people who and they don't have no confidence. So sometimes their no confidence can be whenever they get around someone that's sure, what they do is they like to basically tear them down with words, or tear them down with titles, or tear them down with money, or tear them down with whatever status that they have, tear them down with positions. Well, I have this position and you don't have this. They come off very condescending. They come off as if, oh, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never been through that. And because of you didn't heal or allow God to heal that innermost part, now you cannot see beyond the jealousy. So I need you guys to understand that there's always a motive whenever somebody is trying to oppose what you're saying. There's always a motive. And sometimes the opposing is ignorance. Sometimes the opposing is it's an altar versus altar thing. So let's say you house the altar of God. They house the altar of their little demons that they can't get rid of. It's always going to see combative. And I want you to understand that you have to get secured in God. You have to get secured in yourself in God to understand that, no, God, you gave me a voice for a reason. You gave me this position for a reason. You gave me this business for a reason. You don't allow opposing spirits to come in and now silence what God has called you to do, because now they're acting up. We have an example about this in Acts chapter 18. Beautiful story, right? It could go, it's so much stuff in this story. But what I want you guys to pick up in this story is Acts chapter 18, verses 1 through 11. Paul goes somewhere and it says he was talking to the people, right? He was talking to both the Jews and the Greeks. And he testifies to the Jews that Jesus is the Christ. But when they opposed him and blasphemed, he shook his garments and said to them, "Your blood be upon your heads. I am clean. From now on, I will go to the Gentiles." Basically, they talked about him like a dog. Basically, they mocked him. Basically, they said all type of wild stuff to him. And then on top of that, they blasphemed. Guess what? Whenever you have a voice for something, you are going to have opposing opponents. And many times, so let's say you're in a career, the opposing opponents can sometimes be colleagues. The opposing opponents could sometimes be other department. Let's say you're standing up for something in your family. Sometimes the opposing opponents can be family members. It could be older family members. They don't like the fact that you're talking about certain things and you're getting people free. They don't like the fact that you're talking about certain things and you're getting people delivered. They don't like the fact that you're shedding light on something that many people was in bondage about. They don't like that. So again, they're going to be opposed against you, right? Sometimes it could be a circle of friends. Now you're standing apart. Because you're standing apart, now it's like, oh, well, no, you don't see it that way. No, you're looking at it wrong. You know what? We probably should have had a talk about this, but I probably would have just accepted it different if it was if your delivery was wrong. I would have took it differently if you said it like this or if you said it like that. I think you just need to be more kind about it. Opposing opponents, right? And then the opposing opponents could be in church. You're setting your face with God. You're reading the principles of God. You're actually applying the principle of God to your life. Now you're opposing people who have probably been in church all their life, who don't know anything. They don't know. They don't have a real relationship with God. They're very religious. They're stuck to traditions. So now you look like the outlier. No, you're not supposed to be the outlier. You're supposed to be with us. But God didn't call us to be a bunch of people that are group thinkers. He called us to be disciples. He called us to be set apart. He called us to be the light. He called us to be the city upon the hill for others to see. They don't like that. So now you're the opposing opponent. You're the opposing opponent. He was so aggravated with them people. He basically said, you know what? Bump y'all. I'm going to just talk to these group of people now. Basically. I'm paraphrasing, guys. Read Acts 18 verses 1 through 11. I'm paraphrasing. What I love is in verse 9, God had to come to him by night to say, do not be afraid, but speak. Do not keep silent. For I am with you, and no one will attack you to hurt you. For I have many people in this city. Basically, God had said, hey, don't let these people buff up on you like this. Don't let these people threaten you. Don't be scared of these people. It's just words. They like to run their mouth. That's all they like to do. No one will attack you to hurt you. So many times people think attack is physical. Yes, it could be physical, but do you not know words can also be an attack? Words can be an attack on someone's destiny. Words can be an attack on somebody's confidence. Words can be an attack on somebody's vision. Words can be an attack on somebody's purpose. Words can be an attack on somebody's mental health. It's that serious. Proverbs 18:21 tells us the death and life are in the power of the tongue, meaning with that same tongues that come out words, right? You can breathe life or you can be death. That's why a lot of times when you have certain words that said to you, you need to rebuke it immediately. I don't care if you at a theme park with a bunch of baby kids. If someone have said something over you or over your child or over your family, you rebuke it immediately. You don't care about what's going on in that moment. You do not. Words can attack someone's destiny or delay them. I want you like this. I want you guys to get a bigger understanding of this. Now, in this passage, it sounds like these people, they probably could have attacked Paul because, Bible days, they was really with it. He was in Corinth at that. They was really with it. But there's the physical attack, but then there's the words of attack. And I believe that's why God had to come to Paul to say, listen, because that could have delayed. And I believe that would have delayed him because even in verse 11, it said, Paul continued there for a year and 6 months. Why even say that? Why would the Bible say that? Meaning probably Paul was ready to get up out of there earlier than he was supposed to. Because the people talked trash. The people were mocking him. They were saying all type of words towards him. The people you have to understand when you have an assignment and when you have a voice about something, whatever that it may be, you don't allow your opponent to silence you. If God has given it to you, if God is steering you, if it was God that said it for you, for whatever it is, whether it's your family, whether it's your finances, whether it's your job, whether it's your business, whether it's you at a church, whether it's you on an assignment, whether it's you on a project, whether it's you over your kids, you don't allow the opponent to silence you. I need you to look at your opponent like a dog with no teeth. It don't have no teeth. It's just barking. A bunch of barks. No teeth. It can't attack you nor hurt you. No teeth. Years ago, I I didn't trust leaders, right? I've always had issues with pastors. As a matter of fact, if I seen someone and I knew the person was going to be a pastor, I kind of like, let me clarify. If I knew of a guy and I know they had interest in me and I know there would be, I could see for some reason, even though I wasn't in a church, there's some men I just knew they was going to be with God. And if I could see they could be a pastor, I just didn't want to talk to them no more. I ain't want nothing to do with pastors. Zero. Want nothing to do with pastors. And so I've always had issues with leadership, right? Always had an issue with leadership. And then around this time, I had just got out of a horrible type church. And then God blessed me with a job, and this job was in corporate America. Now, I went through a bunch of supervisors and leaders. Like, we was always tussling. And God was able to put me in a position to eventually have a leader who was a true leader. And God showed me through that leader what a true shepherd is supposed to do through that leader. Now, the lady didn't come off like she was a Christian or whatever, but I could perceive that God was within that lady. She never had to say it. I knew it. I just knew it. And I believe God did that so strategic. It was such a destiny thing because, first of all, I needed a leader that could understand my personality and how I was. I was spicy. She was spicy. I was strong. She was strong. I was a first child. I believe she was a first child. When I say this thing was divine, it was divine. And I learned what how a true servant, how a true shepherd is supposed to be through working underneath her. I didn't learn it in church, and I'm not saying you can't, but I did it. I didn't learn that in church. I didn't learn it in other people that said that they were Christians. I didn't see other leaders or pastors operate that same. But this lady here, when I said she operated like a true shepherd. She never once tried to change my voice. Because again, I had been through so much where anytime I was for injustice, that's the first thing the opponent does. He try to silence their voice. And for me, because of what God had mandated in my life, that was always, the enemy always was coming after my voice. No one never knew. There was only one or two people in my life who knew, like, that was a wicked pattern that I had to eventually break. And so she never came after my voice. She never came after, oh, well, you a little rough. She never ever did it. She showed me wisdom on how to address certain things in the corporate atmosphere. There were certain politics that I didn't understand. I didn't care for it. I thought it was stupid and dumb. She helped me through it. There was many times we used to just have powwow, and I used to be like, okay, I'm talking to you. I'm just going to say her name was Betty because I don't want to say her real name because she's my friend in real life. You're probably watching this. And I used to be like, can I talk to Betty and not my supervisor? I literally used to say that. I said, can I talk to Betty and not my manager? And she said, okay. Manager hat off, Betty hat on. I said, okay, Betty. Nah. And I used to go in. And she used to get such a kick out of it. But every time after whatever conversation, she would reel it in. And she would not only give me work wisdom, but she never knew she was also giving me life. And a lot of the things, when I went back to God about it, it was literally in the Bible. I just never took the time out to go and search. And it was not until years later. She had the mentality of, if we were in her team, she cared more for her team than she cared for the company. She cared more for the team than she cared more for the higher up. Her thing was always, I want to make sure by the time I leave this position, or by the time you leave this position, you are better than me. I taught you something you could take on with you, and I have inspired you to do great. When I say this lady was a true servant, she was a true servant and a leader. She served us as her team, but she was a leader in a sense of she never tried to silence us. She was never the type like, oh, I know more than you. You can't school me. She was never the type of, I'm better than you. Not only that, I didn't know, I wasn't in the meetings, but I knew she was laying her life on the line. There was many times rules and policies used to change, and she used to lay her life on the line in front of upper management for her team. She was the exemplary, and I needed that in my life. So I know what a real servant and a leader looks like, a real shepherd. A real shepherd. A real shepherd would never try to silence their sheep or make it seem like, oh, well, I know what it is. You don't know what it is. All right. And so because of that, I needed that push. God knew that I was probably never going to get it from inside the church, unfortunately. I was probably not going to get it around my circle, because for the most part, my circle at that time was more about changing my voice or approaching it differently, or, just be a little nicer, be a little kinder, or you too rough. And so when I got this lady and other people's, when I would hear them like, oh yeah, she tough or rough, I used to be like, I'm good with her. She lovely. Wait a minute. This is love. This is love. I never look at it any other way. And God knew I needed that. God knew I needed someone to be straightforward. God knew I needed someone to be like, what's up? Okay, I know what you're saying, but that's not what you're saying. Say what you need to say and so how you said it. God knew I needed that. So when I say that you have to learn to silence the opponent, you have to. Had I not had that, I don't believe I wouldn't have taken the steps that I needed to take as far as promotions, as far as going up, as far as growing up in the ladder in corporate. I needed that. I needed that anchor. I needed that anchor because I had so much things that had delayed my destiny, delayed my life, because I didn't learn and I didn't understand how to silence the opponent. Let me tell you something about how the enemy works. If he can't silence you through your parents, he'll use siblings. If he can't use siblings, he'll use friends. If he can't use friends, he'll use people that are close to you that you love. If he can't use that, he uses the job place. If he can't use that, he uses a career. If he can't use that, he uses a professor. That's why you have to make sure the same words that they are using to use death over your life, Isaiah 54 gives us a premise to condemn it. Condemn it. It didn't say other God. He said, let me go to Isaiah 54:17. Because we love to quote just the first sentence and we don't go down. We don't go down for the headshot. There's a headshot in it. What's the headshot? It says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And every tongue, what is the tongue? The opposing words, the opponents. the spirits, the demons in people, the delay, the rejection, the bitterness, the jealousy. And every tongue which rises against you in judgment, because it's trying to judge, it's trying to go into the courts of heaven to cause some type of judgment with the accuser. It says, you shall condemn. And say your mama, and say your pastor, and say your boss, and say your husband, and say your child, and say your friend. It says, you shall condemn. This is the heritage of who? Of the servants of the Lord. Isaiah 54:17. It says, you shall condemn. Why? This is the inheritance. This is the promise. This is the covenant. It can't be broken as long as you are the servant of the Lord. You hear that? I hope you hear it. So you have to silence the opposers. So I don't care what is trying to make you think differently about yourself. I don't care what is trying to oppose you and say that you don't hear God about a situation, about a person, about an environment. I don't care what the opposer, what if the words are opposer. That's why, it is very imperative if you had parents, if you had guardians that was over your life and they said certain words over you, I need you to first ask God for forgiveness, right? Ask God for forgiveness. And I need you to renounce those words. I need you to condemn those words, those saying. They said you was going to be a vagabond. I need you to condemn those words. Oh, you ain't never going to have friends. Condemn those words. You ain't going to never get married. Condemn those words. You're going to get canceled. Condemn those words. No one want to be around you. Condemn those words. Whatever word, whatever saying. Even nowadays, people like to be real subtle, passive aggressive, because they weak and they punks and they can't say straight up what they want to say. So they're very passive aggressive. Corporate America is very passive aggressive. So for a long time, I was in limbo because I'm like, I don't understand this. Why y'all just can't say what y'all want to say? But thank God for the servant and the leader, Betty, which I ain't going to say her name because she's my friend in real life. You cannot care. Don't be like Paul. Paul was like, let me not say don't be like Paul, because there's some people, they're so irritating and stupid and dumb that they just says the wildest thing. Like, they can't think for themselves. They get manipulated and controlled by all type of stuff. And then they come to you and try to speak to it. And the minute you try to be like, hey, get out my face with that, I'm not trying to hear that. Now they turn around and make it seem like you're the problem. I'm the problem? Because I know how to think for myself. I'm the problem. I know how to dissect some stuff. I'm the problem. I know how to discern some stuff. No, maybe I'm the problem because I stayed around you way too long. Way too long. Stayed in this environment way too long. Stayed in this relationship way too long. God told Paul, do not be afraid, but speak. 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 Speak life. You shall condemn. Acts 18, God told Paul, hey, in verse 9, do not be afraid, but speak, and do not keep silence. I want y'all to get the revelation that the enemy, he excels in silence. He excels in silence. So that's why you have a lot of children, because they were taught to keep silent for so long. Now it changes them. It messes with their mind. It fragments their soul because they were taught to keep silent so much about stuff. I'm not talking about they messing around or they just being loud to be loud, and you're trying to, like, let's say you're in a service or something, you're trying to say, hey, service is going on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about children who seen abuse and they were told to keep silent. Seen injustice, they were told to keep silent. Somebody was touching them and they was told to keep silent. Now you have these children that become adults, and because they never healed of the trauma, the abuse, because people told them to be silent, because you don't want to do that. You want to be liked. So now we got adults who feel as if they're not liked or if they're disliked, they can't move on or they can't walk in the fulfillment and the purpose that God has for their life. Can I give you a warning? Can I give you an opening? Can I give you a tip? You're not going to be like when you're speaking the spirit of truth, which is the word of God, which is Holy Spirit. You're not going to be like when you're standing up as a servant of God. You're not going to be like when you're standing against systems and you're saying, listen, in our house, my children do this. Now, you could do what you want in your house, but in our house, my children are taught to do this. You're not going to be like. You're not going to be like when you're confronting systems that have been taught to silence people when they oppose the opposer, when they oppose the abuser, when they oppose the scammers, when they oppose the people who are unrighteous, when they oppose when people abuse their power, when they oppose people who try to silence them and say, hey, you need to be kind, you need to be nice, you need to be more gentle with some stuff. I just want to know who around here is going to be gentle if you find out your kids is being touched, if you find out your kids is being abused. I want to know who's going to be nice when you find out a mechanic you paid, you told them, hey, you need to switch out my motor, and you find out they put a fake motor. You're going to be, hold up, you going to be nice about that situation? I want you to be nice if on Monday you walk in and you have $50,000 in on your account, and on Wednesday you go to the bank, you find out it's gone, and it wasn't you. I want to know if you're going to be silent, if you're going to be kind, if you're going to be nice about the situation. Don't let the opposers silence you. Make your voice like a trumpet. Make your voice like a trumpet, whether through prayer, whether through singing and worship, or whether you advocating either for yourself or whatever God has commanded you to do. And I want you to remember today that whatever the enemy is speaking to you, whatever the opposers are speaking, that is going against your mind, that is going against your thoughts, that is going against your destiny, that is going against your project, your assignment, whatever it is, I want you to remember Isaiah 54:17 gives us a weapon. That is a sure enough weapon. You don't say no other scriptures today. Say the full context of it. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. So whether it was words that people have said over your life, said over your destiny, said over your finances, said over your project, your business, your children, your marriage, whatever, over your, especially if they said, if they said it like, they said it out of anger or out of frustration. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you, meaning every tongue that rises against you, whether it's on these social media streets, every tongue that rises against you behind your back, every tongue that rises against you in the nighttime hour, every tongue that rises against you in secret conversations, which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. Condemn every word, condemn every saying, condemn every thought, condemn it. Condemn the words. I want y'all to see words. Sometimes they suspend in the air over people. So that's why if God has given you a voice, you don't allow the opponent, you don't allow desperation, you don't allow rejection, you don't allow people not liking you to silence your voice. You shall condemn. This is the what? The promise of the Lord for those who serve him. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. It's our promise. It's our inheritance. It is our trust fund, baby. What's up? Trust fund. The servants who serve the Lord. So I hope this encourages you today. Do not let the opposers to silence your voice, but instead make your voice like a trumpet. Some people, their trumpet is going to be for them to speak up more, to silence the enemies, silence the opposers. Make your voice like a trumpet through worship. Worship him in spirit and in truth. The trumpet may be prayer. And that's every servant of the Lord. Your trumpet should always be in prayer. You don't know what to say? Isaiah 54:17. Just read it. Proverbs 18:21. Read it. 18:111. Make that your prayer. There you go. You got a prayer. Use the word of God. Until you allow the Holy Spirit, which is your comforter, which is your best friend. And for the people, I have learned even in my own life, when people walk away or I walk away and I feel like, oh man, like all I got is my family. Like, what's up? I don't really got that much friends that's like really standing in the paint with me, right? I remember that I have a best friend. His name is Comforter. Oh my God. His name is Comforter. He is gentle when I need him to be gentle. He is loud when I need him to be loud. He makes me laugh when I need a little laughter. He wipes my tears when I need someone to wipe my tears. He is a shoulder that I lean on when I need someone to lean on. My God, he is a staff for me when I need to hold on to something because I feel like I'm weak. I feel like my legs is weak. He is a best friend indeed. I don't got to worry about him spreading my business. None of that. He is a best friend indeed. I hope this encourages you today. And I want you to go back and read. Because I don't care what no one say out here. You better inspect everything around here these days. Even me. Make sure that I ain't lying to you. I love you with the love of Christ.